It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. Today I'm joined by Cathy Salit, CEO of Performance of a Lifetime and author of a really fascinating book titled Performance Breakthrough, A Radical Approach to Success at Work. And in the title, performance is sort of a double entendre because it has a couple meanings, not just improving your performance, but using performance tools, if you will, to help you achieve a greater level of success. So Cathy, welcome to Accelerate.
Thank you so much, Andy. I'm really, really glad to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, my pleasure. So you've got a very interesting background. So take a second, introduce yourself. And when you get a second, include in that, I want to talk about how you started your own school when you were in sixth grade. I thought that was particularly fascinating.
Sure thing. Well, I'm from New York City and have lived here all my life. And I am a junior high school dropout, as you refer to. I had started a new school in junior high or middle school now, as they refer to it. And
yes, you and I must be old enough to be junior high, but for everybody else it's middle school, right?
Right. And I didn't like the new school that I was going to, and I had so Andy, this is speaking of how old we are, this is now in the early 70s, right? So America was in a lot of tumult. There were a lot of there was a lot of the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, women's movement, and so on. And so there was a lot going on, and I was very swept up in that, and very interested in all the kinds of changes that were taking place. And this was all happening at around the time that I was in school. And my experience in school was that they were sort of outdated and not really connected to all of the questions and all the change that was happening. And I felt that it was sort of from another era. And I wasn't interested in the subjects, and I thought the teachers were very strict and authoritarian, and it wasn't working for me. And I had an amazing mom who was always supportive, always there to help me sort of navigate the challenges. And I was depressed and upset and came home every day, and cried and talked with her. And one day, after sort of yet another unfortunate incident in school where actually a young boy, my teacher wouldn't let him go to the bathroom, and I protested, and I was sent to the principal's office for yet another time. And I came home, talked to my mom, and this time she said, sweetie, I think you should quit school. And I think you should quit school and you should start your own school. And I was 12, which I said to her. And she said,
Mom, I'm 12.
Mom, I'm 12. And she said, I know, I'm your mother. I know exactly how old you are. She said, I'll help you. And she asked me whether or not there were other kids who felt the way that I did. And I said, well, yeah, there are. She said, well, you should get them to drop out too. And so I did. And we ended up taking over an abandoned dry cleaners in Manhattan and turning it into a schoolhouse. And we designed our own curriculum. We hired teachers. We raised money. The school was actually called the Elizabeth Cleaners Street School, and we came up with that name because that was what the sign said on the abandoned dry cleaning store that we had taken over. And so we saved about $100 on a sign that way. It was really quite an experience, Andy, because we discovered together by working with this sort of ragtag grouping of students and community volunteers and innovative educators how to build a school, and that experience of breaking rules and, if you will, making up new ones had a huge impact on me. And I think really helped make me who I am today, which is that I have continued to be very passionate about creating alternative forms of education, going outside the box, and helping people to create institutions, conversations, teams, organizations that work for them. And that often means helping people to grow and to experiment and to do things that might not sort of be the typical way to do things, but actually involve experimentation and asking questions and performing in new ways. So that's a little bit about the school experience. And fast forward, after many years of being involved in the theater and the performing arts and as a singer, while being interested in alternative modes of education and community activism, I co-founded Performance of a Lifetime. Now it's 20 years ago, as a way to bring some of the ideas, the concepts, and the skills that come from theater and from the arts into everyday work life, as a way to help leaders and teams to experiment, to grow, and to stretch, and to break rules and make up new ones in ways that are helpful for their own professional career as well as for the organization.
Right. And that's, I mean, so we have largely a sales audience, and yeah, there's people who've looked at, and people that do, they use, study improv and other disciplines, where you come from, that in order to help them become better salespeople, because, gosh, a sales call is nothing if not an improv session.
That's right.
Because it's, it's not terribly scripted, at least not on both sides. It's not scripted. But it's really about using performance to get people outside their comfort zone, to really be able to experience what they're capable of. If I try to summarize it.
Yes, yeah. And so we have this idea that we call the becoming principle, which is really what you're describing, Andy, because what performance helps you do is it helps you to both be who you are, because we're always who we are. We can never stop being who we are. But it also helps you to be who you are not yet. Because what do performers do? I mean, what do actors do? You're pretending to play somebody other than you, right? You're playing another character. Well, we're all made up of all different kinds of characters that we all draw upon depending on what scene we're in our lives. So we act differently when we're getting our kids out the door in the morning to go to school, to when we're delivering a eulogy for a loved one, to when we're running a meeting, to when we're on a sales call. We draw on different parts of ourselves. And so what performing does is if we can sort of take some of those ideas and those tools that actors use, take it off the stage, bring it into everyday life as a way to access the multiplicity of who we are and to expand it. And so if we think of sales and much of the kinds of conversations that we have in our lives as performances that we are both the performers in, the producers, the writers of, the creators of, then we have many more choices available to us for how to be in the various scenes, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, no, it's interesting because you refer in your book to the sort of obscure Soviet social scientist that talks, Vygotsky or whatever his name was, to talk about how people learn, and that I thought was really interesting. As you're saying, is we really learn about ourselves or learn about expanding our capabilities and is not by sitting down and reading a book necessarily, but by interacting with others. That we have to do it to be able to have this happen. And you sort of refer that really becomes a seminal learning experience, is this group activity, this group effect.
Yes, yeah. One of the terms that he uses is a term called creative imitation, and he talks about in childhood what we do is that we pretend to be mommy, we pretend to be daddy, we pretend to be Superman, and so on. We play different characters, and in doing that, that's the way we get to practice and to perform the language and the words that people use, and it's a way we get incorporated into the culture, and that's a very social experience. And as kids, we get a lot of support to do it, right? I mean, almost everything we do is, kids babble, little babies, they go, right?
Very well done.
Very well done. Thank you. Well, I've really worked on that role. But the big people around this little adorable baby who's babbling say things like, "Oh, sweetie, sure, let me go get you your bottle." And it's like, wait a minute, the kid didn't actually say that, but you perform, you play with the child, and that play is actually what makes it possible for the child to learn how to speak. Mm-hmm. Because we have millions of those kinds of conversations. And so that kind of creative imitation that we don't do consciously as children, because we're not thinking about that. We don't even know there is such a thing, right? But if you bring that kind of awareness into adulthood and say, well, gee, how does Joanne, she's such a good salesperson. She manages, I see her develop these relationships sort of what appears to be instantaneously. She makes a connection with the potential customer and client. What is she doing that I can imitate? And sometimes people feel like, well, I shouldn't imitate other people because then I'm not really being myself. It's not authentic. Number one, don't worry. You won't stop being yourself if you creatively imitate Joanne. And notice that I am adding the word creatively imitate, because it's not a parroting. It's like, what can I use? What's her body language? What is she saying? How is she talking with this person? What's that kind of listening that she's doing? She's hearing things that I never even was paying attention to. And so you creatively imitate that, and you incorporate that into now your repertoire, and you grow as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly that applies to sales in spades, because I always talk about sales as really an apprenticeship, and how do you it's not about what you're going to learn in a book, but it's going out and looking and observing how other people are doing it that becomes the most profound way to learn.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it seems like that's true in most roles in life, whether it's in business and sales, in your personal life. As a parent, these things don't occur to you. Thoughts are out of the blue. Is you're patterning them after something.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot more books written recently about what is creativity and how creativity works. And jazz is all about building on and riffing with and improvising, with what you hear and what your fellow ensemble performers are creating musically. And there's this guy named Steven Nachmanovich, who was an improvisational violinist and an author. He wrote this book years ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, called Free Play. And one of the things he says is every conversation is a form of jazz. And so I think if we relate to sales conversations and, again, all conversations as a form of jazz, then what we're doing is we're sort of building on what came before. We're creating with it. Everything is, this is a guy named Kirby Ferguson. He says, everything is a remix.
Well, it is, right?
It is. And so, and that doesn't mean that there is nothing new. It's that everything that is new, that is created, comes from what came before. And I think that idea of building with what is before you is a wonderful way to be in the world and to interact with others.
Yeah, and I think as for individual sales contributors and sales leaders that are listening to this, it's very profound. You think about it. You need to take what you see from somebody else, but then integrate it in an authentic way using your own style, your own way of addressing things. And that's where really the creativity comes from. But it's going to be based on what's come before and what other people are doing, and that's okay. Because, I talk about with companies, what I work with them and talk to them is, get your people, instead of focused on classroom training, is get your people out with peers or other people more and more so they can observe what they do more frequently.
Mm-hmm.
That, especially the successful people, that becomes a much more compelling educational experience.
Yeah, yeah. And so I totally agree with that. And maybe what to add to that is, and then have some practice sessions where you get
Right.
to rehearse and you get to play some of those different, roles and these different characters, and you try it on and you say, oh, this is something I could make use of. This is something I could try. And so that's super valuable.
Yeah, well,
And
I want to talk about that specific about how we can implement that, role play and practice and
mhm.
performance based tools when we come back after a short break, and we'll be back with my guest Cathy Salit talking about performance of a lifetime. Hi, this is Andy. Connect and Sell is used by sales reps at nearly 1,000 companies, including hundreds of technology startups and several Fortune 500 companies, to overcome the challenges of getting prospects on the phone. Companies using Connect and Sell grow their revenues faster by enabling their sales reps to have more sales conversations in 90 minutes than they could otherwise achieve in an entire week. Connect and Sell can be deployed directly to your sales reps, or you can take advantage of their outbound on-demand service, which delivers qualified prospect meetings scheduled directly on your sales reps' calendars. Visit connectandsell.com to learn more about how Connect and Sell can start filling your pipeline today. All right, we're back talking with my guest, Cathy Salit. Great early conversation about, creative imitation. You talked about how all of our conversations are like jazz. I love that metaphor. As you think about it, it's improving on something that's been done before and building on something that's been done before. So you think about it in a sales context is one of the things I always try to caution people about is stop acting on autopilot. And stop being robotic, and assuming that every sales situation you can treat the same and ask the same questions, because you can't, because they're all individual, they're all unique, they're all different. And this jazz metaphor I love is because, you're going to start with the basis of your standard questions you ask, but then based on the interplay between you and the prospect, you're gonna riff on that, you're gonna improv on that, and it'll go a different direction, and both you and the buyer are going to learn something new as a result of that.
Yeah, there's a term in improvisation. You might be familiar with it, Andy. I'm not sure if our listeners are. Uh, it's called hearing offers, and I talk about this in Performance Breakthrough because what an improviser is doing is relating, and I'm talking about like when you're on stage. I'm an improvisational comic. I'm part of an improv comedy troupe called the Proverbial Loons here in New York City, and I've been improvising for over 25 years, and what's at the core of what makes improv work is that anything that anybody does or says, you relate to it as an offer. And your job as an improviser is to accept that offer, say yes to it, and to build with it, even if you don't like it. And, because sometimes you think the term offers must mean it's a good thing, or quote, a good thing. But in improv, everything is a good thing. Everything is a good thing. Somebody comes on stage and starts, flapping their wings and flying around, and, you suddenly realize that they are performing as a vulture and you're the dead body that they are, you're the person that they're about to devour. And you came into the scene thinking, you were going to play a 3-year-old. Well, you've got to notice and see and hear the offer of this, quote, vulture flying around, waiting for your for your bones, and accept it, even if it wasn't what you expected. And
this is important because this is where salespeople oftentimes get stuck. Is that they've got this they may have visualized the way a sales call is going to go based on a history of what they've done in the past, or even a script that they're working from, and they get hit with something out of left field from the prospect they're talking to, and they sort of just stop.
Yeah. I think that the posture of an improviser, which I think salespeople can learn from, is I can't wait for the curveball. I can't wait to be surprised. Like, I think that the posture, like I think I'm a pretty good salesperson. I'm not the best, but part of what I do, which I think has really helped me and my team, is to go into every sales conversation like, I cannot wait to be thrown something that I have not heard before. I hope for it.
I love it. I love that.
Yeah, because then that means that what we're doing is I'm now able to focus more on creating, if you will, an improvisational scene, the jazz of every conversation. And for me to have the creative challenge to figure out, oh, this is cool. How can I share what we have to offer in a way that may or may not connect with what this person cares about? And I love that challenge. And I think that in general, we could be more open to it in sales situations.
Oh, absolutely. That hopefully is what people are getting from this conversation is that, and I talk about that, people need to listen without judgment to prospects.
Yes.
And I think that becomes so important when you're talking about hearing offers, right? Is that part of the problem that with sales, too often, like I said, it's sort of increasingly scripted in their outreach with initial conversations with prospects. And as a consequence, they're thinking about what's coming next as opposed to really listening, like I said, without judgment, without bias to what the prospect is telling them. And how are you going to hear those offers if you're filtering them out?
Yeah. I had a question for you. I know
Sure.
You're the person who's supposed to be asking questions.
No, we'll turn this into the Cathy Salit show. That's fine.
So part of what helps me and what I try to help people do when we're doing sales training, because it is one of the things that we do as well, is to say to people, don't try to make the sale. But don't be focused on making the sale. Be focused on building a relationship and creating a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I have found that direction for my own purposes, and also when we give this direction to other people, that it frees you up to, as you're saying, to listen without judgment and to be totally present, because it's not like you're going to forget what you're there to do. You're not going to forget about your product or service. You have all of that with you, but you're prioritizing the connection and the building of the relationship as opposed to making the sale. And I wonder how you think about that, and if that's what I feel like makes it possible to hear the offers. But I'm interested to hear what you think.
Oh yeah, very much in alignment with that. Is that, to me, an order is an outcome of a process, and you can't control the outcome. All you can control is the process.
Yes.
So focus on the process, focus on the relationship. It's all about the customer. It's not about you. And everything that you're doing, when I work with companies and in my writing, I turn the sort of sales equation on its head. It's not about selling. It's about helping somebody make a decision.
Right. Love that.
So that's a service orientation. And and if you come from that point, then the conversations become much different.
Yeah. I love that. Helping someone make a decision. Exactly. Yeah. And then they're like, oh my God, this is so helpful. Thank you so much.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Because then you become part of the differentiation versus your competitors.
Yeah.
If you take that service approach, it's because at the end of the day, I'm firmly convinced and people listen to the show know this or read my books is especially in today's crowded marketplaces and so on. It's really about how you sell that, and you as a salesperson are really the first line of differentiation versus all of your competitors. And so it's really important that you be focused on the prospect and help them go through their process to make a good decision.
Yeah. And to me, that is what you're describing is improvisation, because anything and everything that anybody says in the scene with you is the perfect thing to have said. Do you know what I mean? And so the other thing that you're doing, I talk about this in the book, one of the 5 fundamentals of performance is improvise your life, right? And so there are these tenets in that chapter. I won't go through them all, but one of them is make the other person look good. You know?
Exactly.
And so that whatever they're saying, whatever they have said to you, whatever they've done is exactly the right thing, is exactly what you wanted to talk about. And so back to your thing about the autopilot, if what you're conveying to your potential customer or to your client, that's not what you're supposed to be saying to me now. I'm on page 35 of my deck presentation, and you're asking a question or you're making a comment that is disrupting my flow.
Right.
That's not going to work. But if if you're in the middle of your presentation, your prepared presentation, and somebody starts to yawn or look at their watch, the response should be something like, "Oh, this might be a perfect time for a break. Let me find out what you're thinking. Is this still working for you?" But so the offers that we get are there. They come in many different shapes and sizes. But whatever it is, we have to convey to the people that we're talking with that this is exactly what's supposed to happen.
Well, yeah, and absolutely. So I want to, in the few minutes we have to talk about this, tell me about some of the exercises, or tell the audience about some of the exercises that you do to help people sort of, learn the improvisational skills and be comfortable with them. Because as you talk about, they're really about taking people outside their comfort zones, breaking sort of with the status quo. Because for most people, you can say, okay, well, you could stick with the status quo, but really, how's that working for you?
Right.
So tell us about some of the exercises that you work with teams and individuals to do to help them sort of embrace this performance-oriented way of improving themselves.
Sure thing. Well, one exercise that we do is something that is considered sort of the core of improvisation. It relates to what we were talking about before about hearing offers. Is this phrase "yes and"? And yes, meaning that no matter what anybody says or does, again, even if you don't like it, you find a way to say yes to it. Sometimes that means saying yes to the specific thing that they've said. Sometimes it's saying yes to the person. And then the "and" is what comes next given what you've heard. Our natural tendency is to say yes, but, which is really a version of no.
Right.
So one exercise is just literally like spend a week saying yes and if you don't literally say it, although it can be helpful when you're first getting started with this, mean it and see where it takes you. And one of the things that I think makes it hard to do that is that you don't know what's going to happen. And so this helps people to become much more comfortable with the uncomfortable, with the ambiguous, with the unknown. And that's a really important sales skill, leadership skill, and life skill to have. So that's one exercise. Another exercise to think about is, and I'm thinking about this specifically for sales situations, or rather networking situations, which can be, sort of the bane of our existences, because some people, and I'm, I consider myself like a very social person, but even I find them difficult.
Sure.
So what would it be like so you decide on a character that you're going to play as a thing to do. So instead of just like walking into a room and like, oh my God, I have to talk to all these people, I have to make a sale, I have to, I've got to get some contacts, whatever it is, you're going in to do, or what if you decided that what you were going to do is perform as the generous host? And you're not the host, like you're not the official host, but that you're going to play the character of someone who's going to help make other people comfortable and help them be at ease. And it's amazing how many people will now want to talk to you because you're making them feel good and you are actually starting to meet some people that you haven't met before. So what is that performance? You can decide what that is, but just that mindset and that role, that character can really make a big difference. Another performance, another character that you could play is to be someone who is very curious. And you want to learn all about what people are doing, what they're into, who they are. And again, that gives you a way in. It gives you something to do. I mean, actors, we have funny language. Sometimes it's called, what's my objective in the scene? What's my motivation?
What's my motivation, right?
And that's the kind of thing. It's like the director, when you're working with the director or you're in a play and you're like, really, what is my character doing in this scene? And so make that decision. Ask yourself that. And then perform it as however you interpret that. You can't get it wrong, because really what I'm trying to help people to do in giving you this direction is to access this capacity that we all have to perform in different ways and to break out of our comfort zone. And that means doing things that feel unnatural. So that's another thing to do. And then just building on what we were saying before about creative imitation, who do you admire? Who, either somebody that you know, someone that you've seen. It could be, somebody that a movie actor, like the way they talk, the way they carry themselves. I sometimes, when I'm feeling sort of intimidated by a situation, I will channel Katharine Hepburn. I mean it, Andy. It's totally bizarre. I don't like
with the locked jaw and everything.
Yeah, it's just like there's a certain kind of posture, and she's so secure and confident, and I channel her, and it helps me. So,
I love that one about the curious individual, because I think from a sales perspective, we're really trying to focus salespeople to think about to be focused on the customer. It's all about the customer, not about you. If you're asking questions as opposed to talking, then you're demonstrating interest in them, and that's a great role for somebody to fill. I had an interview with a gentleman, quite a while ago, where a prominent sales expert, and he was talking about how he practices basically that same role when he goes to social functions. That's the role he assumes, is that he's the curious individual, and he uses it as a test with himself as to. If he meets somebody new, is how long can he be in the conversation before he has to say something about himself?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And to add to that, if people feel like you have to actually be curious in order to perform curiosity, you don't. Because here's the amazing thing about performance. Once you start performing in a way that, quote, isn't the way you feel, or isn't the way, isn't natural to you, you actually become it. It's like you actually start to feel curious.
Yeah.
and then back to the hearing offers, if you're curious, then you're going to hear some stuff that you're going to be able to build with that has to do with what it is that you're selling, most likely, as well.
Yeah, and I think the offers you hear from the customer are an opportunity to take the conversation to a depth that you wouldn't normally get to. And so if you can get that new level of depth established in the relationship and the rapport with the prospect, then other competitors, other salespeople that are selling to them that aren't hearing those offers aren't going to get to that level of depth. You have an advantage. You're building the relationship.
Totally.
And we know decision making is primarily driven by emotions. You're going to win that emotional battle.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent.
Totally.
Oh, good. Okay, well, excellent stuff. We're going to move to the last segment of the show. I've got some standard questions I ask all my guests. And so the first one is when you're out selling, you, Cathy, is what's your most powerful sales attribute?
What is I think that I get people excited about the idea of being both who you are and who you are not yet. I think that this thing of helping, that we help people to become who they are not yet, is a very exciting idea, and that we also have the tools, i.e. performing, as a way to help you do that, is extremely appealing to people. So that's like, if you will, that's the product.
Right.
So I think the product is very strong. I also think that because I like talking to people, I think people like talking to me.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So the next question is so who's your sales role model?
Who's my sales role model? Oprah Winfrey.
That works.
Oprah Winfrey. And she's sort of part of what I love about her is, everything I've read, and I know people who work directly with her, and so they say, wonderful things about her. But she's such a creative force, and the fact that she my sense is that she is very passionate about what she believes and what it is that she has to sell. And so I think that really comes across in the terms of her success, and that she also is a creative person herself. I feel very close to that. She, in a sense, she's a product, and then she has all these other products that she is
Right.
the driver of.
Right. Well, she's also obviously very curious. You just look at the things she gets involved
Very
with. I mean,
curious, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't think you can separate that from her success. So, besides your own, one book you think every salesperson should read to help them achieve their potential?
I think Dan Pink's book, To Sell is Human, is a great book.
It is.
I
Excellent.
love it, and I'm in it. So,
Well,
but that isn't why I love it. I really think it's a cool book. It's a really interesting way of thinking about sales, and yeah.
yeah, well, clearly a mutual admiration society based on his quote on the cover of your book. What music's on your playlist right now?
Hamilton.
Oh, of course. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have, and I'm seeing it again.
Did you get the lottery or?
No, I knew this thing was going to be super hot, and so I got tickets in advance. I got tickets first when it was still in preview, and then bought them again. So
Yeah, so I saw it the first week of previews.
You did?
Yeah.
Did you love it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, for everybody who's listening who hasn't seen, surely you've heard about Hamilton. You haven't seen it. You haven't had the pleasure of being in New York City, and when you get a chance, it'll transform your view of how our country got founded. Because you look at all the so it's a hip hop inflected view of sort of really the birth of our nation, the revolution and the revolutionary founding fathers. And you think about all these movies we've seen with all these old, sort of staid white guys sitting in a room, and you're thinking, then you see Hamilton, you say, well, God, they couldn't have been the way those stupid movies were, because there was no energy in those rooms. And clearly, these guys were they knew they were starting something that was incredibly revolutionary. The energy had to have been amazing. And Hamilton's really the first thing I've ever seen that sort of reflected what had to have been just the life-changing energy that was running through these people as they were going through this amazing revolutionary time.
Yeah. And how much that is in the soul of America, and it's just, I totally agree with everything you're saying. And to me, it's also a wonderful example of the breaking rules and making up new ones in terms of how you do theater.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And Lin-Manuel Miranda is the ultimate salesperson. I mean, come on, he is like selling the history of America.
Oh yeah.
He, by the way, I love his persona both on and off stage. He's so accessible and so real, and I think that's added to the experience that the country is having about this play, about this musical.
Yes. Well, I mean, so here we are. We're sales and theater recommendations. And for people who are still listening to this, when you get a chance, make sure you see Hamilton. Absolutely worth it. Well, Cathy, thanks for being a guest on my show, and tell people how they can find out more about you.
Yeah, you can go to performancebreakthrough.com, and you can read a little bit about the book. Of course, you can also buy the book on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles, and come to our website, performanceofalifetime.com. And I have a mailing list also that is I put out an infrequent but a very interesting and helpful newsletter that people can sign up for. And of course, follow me on Facebook, Cathy Salit Author, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn.
Excellent.
So, but hey, Andy, thank you so much for having me on your show. You're a wonderful conversationalist, and I hope this was of interest and help to your listeners.
I'm sure it was. If they were listening and hearing offers, absolutely. So remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And an easy way to do that is to make this podcast a part of your daily routine, whether you listen on your commute, in the gym, or make it part of your morning sales meeting. because then you'll make sure you don't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Cathy Salit, who shared her expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me. Until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.